laughter wasn't going to help. Medication surely wasn't going to help. I was sincerely looking for hope. So I ended up actually studying hope. I said, well, if I'm really looking for hope, why don't we just study it? Like, what is it? Where does it come from? Psychologically, scientifically, what in the world is hope? And through reading Dr. Snyder's work, through reading Dr. Lopez's work, it was such a wonderful experience to really dive into getting very serious on understanding what hope is, and more importantly, what it isn't. Hope is understood to be a three-pronged, a three-headed character, if you will. So the three pillars to hope is having a goal, having motivations to pursue that goal, and having pathways to pursue that goal, or recognizing pathways and drumming up the willingness through the motivation to explore those pathways. So it starts with the what, and then it's developed with the why, and then it's executed with the how. So as just a fun little social experiment here, and just because I uttered these words at one point of I don't want farts that smell like roses, I said, well, maybe I do. If I'm looking for hope, let's try to find hope in the most absurd, obnoxious things in the world. And as just a dumb little social experiment to illustrate what hope actually is, let's make up a stupid goal. Let's fart in a way that makes it smell like roses. Why? It's never been done before. We'll break the human fart barrier. I've always wanted to fart in my brother's face without it being an unethical venture. And why not? Why not? I don't have anything else in life I want. I don't have anything else I want to do. Why not? I don't have anything else to do. So now how? How can we accomplish this? This gets to the pragmatic side of hope. How could we actually pull this off? We could try it. We could fail. We could repeat our failures and our trials, and we could eat all the roses we could ever find, or find the right mixture of chemicals to ingest and the right foods to eat. We could practice. We can read books and understand the science of the olfactory nerves in our noses, and we could talk to others who've gotten close, and we can laugh till it hurts while he's trying. At least we can have some fun while trying. Every experience of our lives that's hopeful fits this mold. As dumb as the example is that I'm using, whether you want to run a marathon, what do you want to do? I want to run 26.2 miles. Why? Because I want to challenge myself. Why? Because it'll give me a reason to get in shape. Why? Because I really want that 26.2 sticker on the back of my car. I don't know. For whatever reason, some people wake up wanting to run a marathon. That's their what. They have their own whys. Maybe they had a scare with a heart attack. Maybe they want to rediscover an old love of running. Maybe they made a bet with their roommate that said that they were out of shape, and now they want to prove their roommate wrong. Who knows? So how? We get to training. We buy some new shoes. We join a running club. We start going for runs. We put a plan together. We download an app that keeps us motivated on that plan. We put it in our calendar. Whatever it takes to make that dream happen, to run a marathon, that is another example of what hope is. Whether it's financial goals, or whether it's business goals, or whether it's personal fitness goals, or whether it's relationship goals or travel goals, whatever, having a goal and having the reasons that are important to you. And then it's just a matter of exploring the pathways to pursue those goals. But that's essentially what hope is. So the reason I joked with the idea of farts that smell like roses is sometimes farts do smell like roses. What I mean by that is scientists and social scientists and psychologists have recently discovered a rare phenomenon, and it's not that rare actually. But this bell graph is a spectrum of how people respond to trauma and suffering in life. The normal response to difficulties in life, to struggle in life, is to build up resiliency. However, since psychology started with disorder, since psychology started with sickness, much like physical health, the world has gotten a head start on understanding what PTSD is, what depression is, what anxiety is. And then, of course, we see the news stories of suicides, of mass shootings, of mental disorders, and all that stuff is on all the negativity and all the bad things we see on the news and the bad things we read about in the DSM-5 manual. All of that stuff ends up on the left side of this graph. The last thing that psychology has taken the time to actually study, and the last thing they've uncovered, is things on this right side of the graph of when trauma happens, good things can come from it. People grow from trauma. People grow through struggle, not just building resiliency, but they transform their entire lives into a completely new being. This has been studied in the world of religion, as we'll dive into more. But just since 2012 have scientists actually studied what happens in a positive light after people experience trauma. Much like hope has only been studied scientifically since 2003. Post-traumatic growth as a topic has only been studied since 2012. So all of this is extremely brand new in the world of science. And we'll dive more into this, but it is possible to fart and have it smell like a rose in the metaphorical sense. So this list isn't official, but I took the time to just briefly think out what are all the reasons people would have to actually want to harm themselves and end their lives. The list is pretty straightforward. The very first one, most people are suffering pain in their brain. People have the desire to eliminate psychache. Not a headache, not a heartache, but psychache. They want to eliminate thoughts and experiences of the past. It's pretty classic. Existential angst. This is more of looking to the future and not seeing anything. The lack of meaning or purpose for the future leads to an existential angst. If you see what's in the future and if you worry about the future, that leads to a loss of or a fear of loss, or if you're impending a loss of health, a loss of wealth, a loss of relationships, skills, talents, whatever. If you're losing something in your life, you don't like it, and one response to that is, let's stop this from happening and let's get out of the way before bad things happen. Not having any more outlets, the ability or motivation to achieve anymore, which for people who are used to lives of overachieving, this can cause serious problems. Having any sort of guilt or shame about unfortunate events, especially those that make us feel like a failure, makes us want to hide from the world and hide from life. Sometimes it might be related to actual real physical pain. Altered psychological stresses, which doesn't help when we add more drugs and alcohol to the mix. Abnormal amounts of stress. People with existing mental conditions are at risk to suicide. After meeting with psychologists, though, the most important takeaway I've received is the constant reminder that our feelings and our thoughts oftentimes are out of our control, but our actions are in our control. The belief that our life is an undue burden on others. There's a wonderful motivational speaker who was born without any arms and without any legs, has a beautiful story about how he thought throughout his life he was nothing but a burden to everybody. Without having any limbs, he literally, couldn't do the majority of things that normal human beings could do, but it took him some time and took him a lot of struggle to find his place in the world and find out that, yes, God does have a calling for him. And I highly suggest looking up his story. I'll link it here. Curiosity of the mystery of an afterlife. This one's kind of rare, but it was a driver for me when I was seriously discerning suicide, mostly because I'm just impatient. I would like to just rip the Band-Aid off and get to the end of the book. This is just another simple deviation from suffering, to where I don't want to suffer. I just want to get to the end of the story. If my life is a story, let's just get to the end of it and figure it out now. What happens when we die? These thoughts come up more often in social isolation. When we're not communicating with others, we start thinking about our own lives much more than we're thinking about others. And the failure to be around others and the failure to establish community heightens our desire to actually get some attention from other people. More isolation leads to not knowing where to go to for help. And all in all of this leads to more and more hopelessness. But hopelessness isn't the root of all of these issues. If you look at this entire list and tried to sum it up with one word, what one word would you sum up this entire list? Not quite despair, but what other word would sum up this list? When I look at this list and I try to sum it up in one word, it boils down to suffering. The reasons people contemplate suicide is to avoid suffering. It's as simple as that. It's a very hard pill to swallow. However, it's undeniable that all of these things relate to suffering, and our attraction to suicide is our repulsion to suffering.